Hey everyone, welcome back to Reliable Prepper. I've spoken a lot about preparedness here on the channel, but today we're going to talk about what's really on everyone's mind, the 2024 election. The stakes have never been higher and the tension in this country is reaching a breaking point. This isn't just another election. What happens on and after Election Day could change the entire landscape of our nation. The potential for unrest, civil breakdown, and widespread chaos is real. What if it spreads to the suburbs and rural areas, catching everyone off guard? You need to be ready. In this video, we'll cover the potential fallout, what could happen if the election results are disputed, how civil unrest could become rampant, and what you need to do to keep your family safe in the face of an uncertain future. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you don't miss out on critical updates. And don't forget to follow Reliable Prepper on Facebook for even more tips and insights. Let's get into it. As the 2024 election approaches, the air is thick with tension, and for good reason. Political divisions in this country have reached a boiling point, far surpassing the typical disagreements that have characterized past elections. What we're facing now is something more severe, an existential battle between opposing ideologies, each side viewing the other not just as rivals, but as a direct threat to the future of the nation. The stakes have never been higher, and the possibility that the election could lead to widespread unrest is not just a fear, it's a very real risk. Imagine this scenario. Election day passes, but instead of a clear and decisive outcome, the results are delayed due to the sheer number of mail-in ballots, irregularities in vote counting, or even cyber attacks targeting critical election infrastructure. Almost immediately, the accusations of fraud start flying, with both sides claiming the election was rigged. What starts as peaceful protest quickly escalates into something much darker. The cities see the first wave of demonstrations, but the unrest doesn't stop there. It begins to spread into suburbs and rural areas as frustrations boil over. The uncertainty surrounding the results creates an atmosphere of fear and distrust. Without a clear victor in the election, people begin to lose faith in the democratic process itself. Law enforcement, already stretched thin, may struggle to contain the growing unrest. And as things spiral further out of control, the potential for violence, looting, and vandalism increases. This breakdown in civil order could extend beyond just street-level protests. Critical services could be disrupted as well. Imagine rolling blackouts, communications outages, and a breakdown in the supply chain, leaving store shelves bare and causing a rush for essentials like food and water. The longer the election results remain contested, the more significant the impact will be on every aspect of life. The uncertainty will likely shake the financial markets, causing stocks to plummet and pushing businesses to close their doors temporarily or even permanently. Panic buying will likely ensue, leaving shelves empty as people rush to secure basic necessities. This period of unrest and instability could last for weeks, even months, dragging the country into a prolonged state of paralysis. And it's not just about political turmoil. This chaos has the potential to seep into every corner of daily life, making it difficult for families to feel secure in their own homes. But perhaps the most insidious aspect of this scenario is the effect it has on the nation's psyche. Without a clear path forward, uncertainty festers, breeding fear and desperation. People who once felt safe and secure in their communities may begin to question everything around them, whether their financial investments are safe, whether they'll have access to food and water, and even whether their personal safety is at risk. When the future is unclear, people begin to act out of survival mode, and that can lead to dangerous, desperate decisions that only fuel the ongoing unrest. The domino effect of a disputed election result is something we cannot afford to underestimate. Political leaders may attempt to calm the situation, but if there is no quick resolution, the impact could reverberate through society for an extended period. Social order could continue to break down, and the ripple effects could last far beyond the immediate aftermath of the election itself, leaving a lasting scar on the country. This isn't just speculation. It's a very real possibility based on the unprecedented level of division we're witnessing today. In times of extreme unrest, there's a very real possibility that the government might resort to imposing martial law to restore order. This is not just some distant hypothetical. History shows that when civil unrest reaches a breaking point, governments often feel compelled to take drastic measures to restore control and prevent further chaos. Martial law, while extreme, is a tool that could be used if the situation spirals out of control. But what does that actually mean for you and your day-to-day life? Martial law could bring about curfews, restricted movement, and the suspension of civil liberties that many Americans take for granted. It's a significant shift from normal life and, for many, would feel like a serious government overreach. Under martial law, the military essentially takes over many functions typically handled by civilian authorities. This could involve significant military presence on the streets, checkpoints at major roads, and patrols in both urban and suburban areas. Imagine your daily commute disrupted by military checkpoints or armed soldiers stationed at your local grocery store. This isn't just a scenario that plays out in war-torn countries. This could happen here if the situation escalates enough. Schools might be forced to close, businesses could be shuttered, and public transportation could be severely limited. Anyone caught defying a curfew or participating in demonstrations could be arrested and possibly face military tribunals rather than civilian courts. The sight of troops on American soil, patrolling neighborhoods and enforcing new restrictions, would be jarring for most citizens. While some may find a sense of security in the increased military presence, there are significant downsides to this kind of control. The curtailing of individual freedoms under martial law could be severe. In extreme situations, entire communities could be locked down, cutting off access to essential services. Individuals might find themselves detained without the same rights and protections afforded under civilian law. Under martial law, things like freedom of movement, free speech, and the right to assemble could all be restricted or eliminated altogether. This level of control is something that few Americans have ever experienced, and it's essential to be prepared for how it could affect you personally. The first step is to ensure that you have enough essentials, food, water, medicine, and other supplies, to shelter in place for extended periods. Stockpiling isn't just for a natural disaster, it's a vital preparation step for a scenario where you might not be allowed to leave your home for days or weeks. Know your rights and stay informed about what martial law entails. Understand that certain legal protections might no longer apply, and ensure that you're ready to adapt to a new reality where the government has far more control over daily life than what we're used to. During times of intense civil unrest, the use of non-lethal force by law enforcement, such as tear gas or pepper spray, is a common occurrence. These crowd control measures are intended to disperse large gatherings and restore order, but in the heat of the moment, things can quickly escalate. What happens when the situation spirals beyond law enforcement's control? There's a very real possibility that more dangerous chemical agents could be used, either by law enforcement or by extremists looking to inflict harm. Weapons like Molotov cocktails, homemade explosives, and even targeted chemical attacks are not out of the realm of possibility during large-scale riots. We've seen riots in the past where simple protests have descended into violent chaos, and it doesn't take much for an already volatile situation to take a darker turn. Molotov cocktails and other improvised explosive devices can transform streets into literal battlegrounds, while more malicious actors may turn to homemade chemical agents that go far beyond tear gas or pepper spray. The use of biological or chemical agents, while rare, is a growing concern, particularly in a world where extreme ideologies can sometimes lead to devastating consequences. Exposure to these dangerous agents can have immediate and severe consequences. Tear gas and pepper spray cause intense irritation to the eyes, skin, and respiratory system, but more potent chemical agents could cause lasting damage or even be lethal. For example, chlorine-based agents or nerve agents could be used by those looking to create maximum chaos and fear. Homemade explosives and firebombs add another layer of danger, turning once peaceful streets into war zones, where fires and destruction are rampant, and safety is anything but guaranteed. To be adequately prepared, it's essential to have protective gear like gas masks, respirators, and other types of respiratory protection if you live in or near areas prone to unrest. In addition to gas masks, having protective goggles and gloves can help safeguard you from chemical agents and debris from explosions. But don't stop there. Complete your preparedness kit with critical medical supplies like bandages, burn creams, eye washes, and even antidotes for chemical exposure. It's also a good idea to invest in personal decontamination kits that can help mitigate exposure to hazardous chemicals. Preparation isn't just about stockpiling food and water, it's also about being ready to protect yourself from the full spectrum of threats that could emerge during civil unrest. Biohazards and chemical warfare might not be the first dangers that come to mind, but they are very real threats that can turn a volatile situation into an even more deadly one. Taking the time to prepare for these worst-case scenarios will ensure that you have the best chance of protecting yourself and your loved ones if things take a turn for the worse. As civil unrest escalates and law enforcement becomes increasingly overwhelmed, local militias and private security forces often step in to fill the gaps. In some cases, these groups are made up of concerned citizens who want to protect their communities, but in other instances, they could be more extreme, bringing their own agendas into the mix. The presence of militias can be a double-edged sword. While they might offer protection, they can also escalate tensions or become unpredictable forces in their own right. For many, militias and private security forces are seen as a necessary response to a government that's either unable or unwilling to provide adequate protection. These groups often form quickly, sometimes out of desperation, and are usually armed and ready to defend their communities. However, the lack of oversight and clear authority can make these groups unpredictable, and in some cases, dangerous. It's important to be aware of the militias or private security groups operating in your area. Vet them carefully, know their goals, understand their tactics, and consider whether they align with your values and safety needs. Don't assume that just because a group is armed and organized, they are operating in your best interest. Trust must be earned, and during times of chaos, that can be difficult to come by. It's not just domestic threats we need to worry about. There's also the very real possibility that foreign governments could exploit America's instability for their own gain. We live in an interconnected, globalized world, and when one country, especially a superpower like the United States, faces internal chaos, other nations take notice. Foreign governments and hostile actors are constantly looking for opportunities to weaken the United States, and a period of prolonged unrest presents a golden opportunity for them to interfere, either through direct actions like cyberattacks or more covert methods such as funding extremist groups or disseminating propaganda. We've already seen signs of this in recent years. During the 2016 and 2020 elections, multiple U.S. intelligence agencies confirmed that foreign actors, most notably Russia, but also China and Iran, attempted to meddle in the electoral process. Their methods included spreading disinformation on social media, hacking into political organizations, and using online trolls to stoke division and distrust among the American public. This type of foreign interference is unlikely to disappear in 2024. In fact, it could escalate as these countries become more adept at cyber warfare and information manipulation. Just in 2023, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, issued multiple warnings about ongoing attempts by foreign actors to undermine critical infrastructure and confidence in American democratic processes. One of the greatest threats is the potential for cyber attacks aimed at critical infrastructure. Foreign hackers could target the power grid, water supply, transportation networks, and even financial systems. In 2021, the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack demonstrated how vulnerable the United States is to cyber attacks on infrastructure, an attack that resulted in gasoline shortages across the East Coast. Now imagine that same level of disruption happening during a period of civil unrest when resources are already strained. Hackers might aim to cripple communication networks, making it more difficult for authorities to respond to violence and making it harder for citizens to access essential services. If, during a contested election or a prolonged period of protests, critical systems like electricity, water, or banking are compromised, the situation could deteriorate quickly, leading to panic and further instability. Another method of foreign intervention is the funding of extremist groups within the United States. We've seen this strategy deployed in other countries where foreign governments provide financial or logistical support to destabilizing elements, whether through organized militias or radical activist groups. These groups could be emboldened by foreign funding, using the unrest as an opportunity to enact their agendas through violence and chaos. For instance, countries like Iran and China have been accused of covertly supporting militias and radical factions in the Middle East and Asia to further their geopolitical goals, and similar tactics could be employed within the United States during a time of national weakness. The economic impact of foreign interference during a period of unrest could be equally devastating. The U.S. economy is deeply tied to global markets, and any sign of prolonged instability within the country can send shockwaves through international trade. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic showed us just how fragile global supply chains can be. The combination of civil unrest and foreign intervention could exacerbate these vulnerabilities, leading to delays in imports and exports, price hikes on essential goods, and a potential decline in investor confidence. If foreign governments target key industries or manipulate trade relationships to exploit U.S. instability, the economic consequences could be severe. We could see declines in the stock market, depreciation of the U.S. dollar, and a disruption in key sectors like technology, agriculture, and manufacturing. But foreign intervention isn't just about direct attacks. There's also the broader geopolitical context to consider. America's domestic turmoil could invite meddling from adversarial nations looking to expand their influence on the global stage. For instance, China might use this as an opportunity to assert dominance in the South China Sea, while Russia could further its interests in Eastern Europe or the Middle East. These geopolitical shifts could weaken America's standing internationally, reducing its ability to influence global affairs and respond to foreign crises. And while America is distracted by internal chaos, foreign powers might push their agendas, leading to a realignment of global power dynamics. To prepare for the broader implications of civil unrest, it's important to stay informed about international developments, keep a close eye on global news, and be aware of how foreign governments might be reacting to or influencing events in the United States. Understanding the bigger picture, how foreign nations might view U.S. instability as an opportunity for interference, can help you better anticipate potential threats. Staying vigilant and informed will allow you to act quickly, whether that means securing essential resources, safeguarding your finances, or adjusting your preparedness plans based on what's happening both domestically and internationally. The ripple effects of America's internal struggles can extend far beyond our borders, and it's critical to remain aware of the global implications. One of the most overlooked yet devastating aspects of civil unrest is the psychological toll it takes on individuals and entire communities. When tensions rise, misinformation and disinformation spread like wildfire, often amplifying fear and panic far more quickly than the actual events on the ground. Social media plays a major role in this, as rumors, exaggerated stories, and outright lies can be shared at a pace that outstrips the ability to fact-check or verify them. The result is a population gripped by a sense of uncertainty and dread, often leading to irrational behaviors like panic buying, fleeing to unsafe locations, or even acts of desperation. We saw this phenomenon firsthand during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, when panic buying quickly emptied store shelves across the country. People who had never considered stockpiling before were suddenly hoarding everything from toilet paper to canned goods, leaving many others scrambling for basic necessities. But during times of civil unrest, this panic can have far more severe and long-lasting consequences. Essential supplies could become scarce, emergency services could be overwhelmed, and resources might be stretched thinner than ever before. The key to surviving these periods of heightened tension is maintaining a clear, level-headed approach. Don't let fear-mongering, misinformation, or emotional reactions dictate your actions. Stay informed, but be discerning about the sources you rely on for information. Seek out verified, trustworthy outlets. Stress management becomes even more crucial in these times. Practice techniques like meditation, deep breathing, or even regular physical exercise to keep yourself grounded and focused. Above all, remember that panic is contagious. Staying calm and rational not only helps you make better decisions, but also sets an example for those around you. The more composed and prepared you are, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the uncertainty and keep your loved ones safe. The world we live in today is more unpredictable than ever before, and the 2024 election could very well be the tipping point that sends the nation into a period of prolonged unrest. From cyberattacks to blackouts, martial law, and potentially widespread violence, the challenges we face are numerous and complex. That's why the time to prepare is now, not just for yourself, but for your family, your neighborhood, and your community. Having a plan in place is essential. Make sure you have enough food, water, medical supplies, and backup energy sources to get through an extended period of uncertainty. The goal is to be self-sufficient, but it's equally important to foster a sense of community resilience. Forming bonds with your neighbors and organizing a community defense plan can give you a significant advantage during times of unrest. Together, you can share resources, look out for one another, and create a safer environment amidst the chaos. However, while building these relationships, it's crucial to maintain a balance. Be mindful of what you share. Oversharing your preparedness plans or the extent of your resources can sometimes make you a target. Trust within your community is important, but so is discretion. Remember to stay informed, but be critical of the information you consume. There will be a lot of fear-mongering and misinformation swirling around, so focus on gathering your facts from trusted sources. And above all, remain calm and rational in the face of turmoil. Panicking helps no one, and a clear mind will allow you to make better decisions for yourself and those around you. Thank you for watching Reliable Prepper. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future updates. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook for more in-depth content on how to navigate these challenging times. Stay safe, stay prepared, and I'll see you next time.